You start
This
with
meeting
like,
is.
oh my God,
Yeah,
Siri's
did you hear
talking
that
to me.
too?
No, Siri's creepy, man. They fucking,
I know.
they get everywhere, mate. You know what I mean? Like now you can get them in your car and it's,
You can get
it,
it in your house where you can just talk to them to put music on.
nah, it's not for me, that, mate. You know, it's not
No,
for me.
no,
I
no.
prefer to talk to me cat, you know.
Same. I have a cat.
What color? Male, female?
Female, and she's like brown, black, and white.
Wow. What's her name?
How about you? Miffy.
Meefy.
No, Miffy.
Oh, Miffy. Like Whiffy, but with an M.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, oh, mine's called Phoenix. She's like,
This is a boy.
no.
Orange.
Yeah,
It's a girl.
of
Oh,
course. With a name like
is it orange?
Phoenix.
For a girl?
Yeah, of course.
We can't assume. We can't assume.
I mean, anything badass enough to be able to like turn into Ash and then be reborn is definitely a fucking female. Dudes aren't smart enough to do that. You know what I mean? Like, we'd probably just be like, all right, yeah, see you later. We're off. But no, man, like, I'm interested in what you do. Like, it's very admirable and it touches on a subject which is, I mean, it's rough. So I guess this is going to have to be a PSA for people, right? I don't really do any trigger warnings or anything like that. But I mean, I guess if people are going to get triggered, grab yourself a fluffy blanket and a hot cocoa because shit gets rough, man, you know. And hey, this is a safe space in the sense of you don't have to tell me shit, you know. But if you want to fucking tell me whatever you want, this is a totally judgment-free zone. Like, who am I to judge, man? I'm a dude from Manchester. You know, we've all done shit. We've all been places. Like, the world, the fucking stage is yours, man.
Well, yeah. I guess I don't know where to start. I'm the founder of What We Wear in Australia, but I guess it's not really just Australia wise because, you know, all our platforms and stuff can help anyone, like no matter where you are. But I guess we do like a lot of education and awareness and advocacy, I guess, on sexual violence and every, I guess, thing that comes with being like sexually assaulted and being like a victim. But even for people who aren't victims, like even if you're like you have a friend or a family member who's been through it, just like knowing what things you should and shouldn't say and how to be there for them. Yeah, so it's been a pretty wild journey so far with it.
Yeah, I bet. Like, I can't believe how prevalent it is. And like, I was speaking to a good mate of mine, and she lives out in Australia, and is an Aussie, and was like, dude, like it's crazy over here. And I get over here, obviously, it's crazy everywhere, which is fucked up, right? And I'm not giving the UK a free pass at all, like because it happens back home. But coming over here, it just seems like it's more accepted. And it doesn't compute in my brain. I'm like, that it kind of goes in and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like 2 + 2 is not 5, guys. You know, like, well, I don't understand this. Like, and why do you think it is? Why do you think it's so common over in this side of the world?
Well, I think it comes down to because it's just like I think it's a really like taboo issue, and I think it's not spoken on. But I think when it is spoken on, it's like a shock to everyone. But I do think, you know, the past year or so, it is starting to be spoken on more, and it is, I guess, being like represented in the news more and stuff. But it's still not at the level it should be. I guess it's common because, yeah, there's just not a lot of representation on it. There's not a lot of, you know, I guess videos on it, TikToks on it. You won't really see it on social media unless you follow certain pages. So people don't really have that education or like really know about it. So just things like, one I was talking to a friend with the other day was like, say if you were on Tinder and then you went on a date and then you went back and you decided, oh, you know what? let's have sex, let's do it. Both parties are into it, it's fine. But then one of the parties says, look, you know, this is starting to hurt, let's stop. But then the other person just keeps going and just doesn't listen to it and doesn't stop. That asked like quite a few people that I know, or just like people if like what they think, and they just like aren't aware that that is sexual assault. Um, but you know, if you are, I guess, having sex, and even if it is consensual at first, but then the person just says, "This is really hurting. We need to stop," or "Can we stop?" and then it's not stopped. That is sexual assault.
Mm.
And I guess, yeah, because people don't know a lot around what can be sexual assault, like I guess even just how to ask for consent in general. um yeah, it's just such a, it can be such seen as such like an awkward situation and conversation to have. And I feel like people like in Australia specifically aren't ready to have that conversation,
Mm.
unless they've been involved in it themselves or have someone they know that's been involved in it. But if you like haven't really had anything to do with it, people are usually, I feel, pretty scared to start that conversation or even to just be taught about what's right and what's wrong.
Mm. Yeah, I agree, man. With it all starts with a conversation, right? Even a
Mm,
sense of, I don't know, coming up with a fucking safe word or something, or would just be like, hey, I'm prone to X, Y, or Z. You know, like I mean, I speak to people all the time. This is outside of the bedroom. I'd be like, look, man, like I'll walk away sometimes because I got some buttons that I don't want to get pressed. They're like, what do you mean? I
mm,
was like, I can explain this to you. It might take a while and you might not understand it. But at the same time, like, you know, you don't have to understand this. I'm pre-warning you of this is what's going to occur. And it could be the same if, you know, you're going to hook up with someone who's like, hey, man, you know, such and such has happened in the past, or you don't even have to disclose that. Obviously, say what you want. You don't have to say whatever. And be like, if I say red fucking trousers or whatever, it's like, no, it's a no go.
mm,
Let's, you know, let's call it a day and we can go again whenever. You know, it's I don't know why people don't like having that conversation. I mean, it's awkward, granted, but at the end of the day, like coming out of the ass end of that conversation, pardon the pun, you, it's so much better, right? You respect the individual
mm,
so much more. You know, you've built a friendship
mm,
or a relationship, a communication channel or whatever. Like, it's so much better coming out the back end of it. Like, you've just got to go do the hard things.
mm. Yeah, and like it is better as well, just because then you know you're not gonna be at a point where you potentially have sexually assaulted someone, or where you're at a point where they're hurt or they're
Mm,
traumatized by what's like just happened. But I think like it is like I guess with some situations where you haven't met the person or whatnot, it can be an awkward thing. And I feel like lots of people are like, oh, well, I haven't met them. And then there's just that like sexual tension. Why am I going to want to break that to ask for consent or to ask like, is there any safe words or is there anything that I should be aware of? Whereas like to know to stop and whatnot. But I feel like people need to be taught and be aware that you should want to go to that like level and do that, because if you don't, there's a chance that that person, you know, might not be okay and maybe I guess traumatized by what goes on. And yeah, that could leave them with some pretty long lasting effects afterwards as well.
mm. Yeah, totally. Like the repercussion of not doing it completely outweighs the awkwardness, right? Like
100%.
if you go down that route, you know, it's a no-brainer. Like just have the conversation,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
I think it's a respect thing too, you know. There's like so there's certain
Yeah,
things that
definitely.
like everyone's got something that they don't like, right? I'm just like, oh hey,
Yeah.
don't do this, you know, like don't do that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to ask why or anything. You don't have to explain yourself, you know, like if you go to Starbucks and you're like, hey, can I get a flat white, please? They're like, yeah, sure. They don't turn around and be like, why? Right? You
Yeah.
don't have to explain yourself, man. Just be honest. And yeah, it's
Mm,
awkward in this situation because, you know, you might be fucking, but who cares? It's life. Life
mm.
is awkward sometimes. You're gonna have to get over it. We're all adults, you know. You should be an adult if you're fucking. So, you know, have the awkward conversation.
And I even think, like, I think, you know, there will be obviously times where people don't have that conversation, and where I guess people will say, "Oh, but we just got into it and it just like started." And yeah, that might be the case. But I guess then, you know, things like just being aware in the moment that there could be just signs that, um, you know, people need to know these signs before they get in. Like, if you're going to be having sex and doing these things, which is completely fine, I just think you should be aware of different signs, anyways. Like, even just things like, it sounds stupid to say, but if they are really highly intoxicated and they're in and out, like, just knowing that you shouldn't have sex with them. And you should just wait for a time when they're not highly intoxicated and that they can properly, like, have fun. You can both have fun, and whatnot. And just even signs like, if the person's not really seeming that into it, to know to say, "Hey, you're all good," or "Do you want to stop?" And yeah, just things I guess like that need to be more spoken about more, even in just like friendship groups and whatnot, just to know that, like, it's okay to ask that stuff, and it should be a given that you do, like, look for these things, or just at least just have that alert, just be aware that if these things do happen, to know, okay, well, I'm gonna ask them if they're okay or whatnot.
If you were speaking to like all guys on the planet, right? What would
Mm.
you want us to know or do or think about or say? Like what would you say?
um i just I'd probably just say that they need to, within themselves, like their own group, sort of break those stigmas and stereotypes that, like, just with the whole it starts honestly with, like, to me, with the whole that boys can't cry and boys, like,
Mm,
can't, like, have feelings and emotions. I think that a lot with that, and the mental health aspect needs to be really broken down, and it really needs to come across that, you know, men can have feelings and men can cry. And then I think it needs to start within friendship groups, just breaking things down. Like, if you're in a group setting with guys, and, you know, guys are making jokes about, you know, like really sexist jokes, or just jokes about, oh, how maybe how tight she was or something like that. It's being able to stand up and say, "Hey, man, that's probably not appropriate. That's probably not right. Like, don't say that's really disrespectful, and that's not really respecting, like, that person." And I think you saying that makes them go, "Oh, fuck. Okay,
mm,
well, my best mate has just sort of called me out on that." And then they'll just really reflect on that and be like, "Okay, maybe what I said actually wasn't okay, because it must be not okay because they have called me out on it."
mm,
Um, I think starting conversations like that, and even just, yeah, guys in those sort of situations picking up and having, I guess, the ability to be able to really say, "Look, what you guys are talking about right now and what you're saying isn't really appropriate and it's not okay." Because if you do just sit back and be that bystander and just go along with it, or just laugh because they are your friends and you don't really want to upset them and whatnot, like, I know that it's awkward, and it is anxiety, like, there's anxiety to it, but bystanding, you're sort of, you are allowing it to happen, because you're not really giving them that, you're not really saying, because you're not saying to them, "Look, what you're doing right now is not okay." You not saying anything is just like you're saying to them, you know, "What you're doing is okay."
mhm. Actions speak louder than words, man. I completely agree with that. Like, I think
100%.
I think bystanding, and to some extent, or to most extent, is worse. You know, in my opinion, especially when you fucking just sit there and like watch. You know what I mean? Like, you go through down the street, right, and you see someone getting their head kicked in by like three lads, and you just sat there and you whip out your phone. I was like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
I'm not saying put yourself in
yeah,
harm's way, but I'm like, if you're gonna do anything, or if you're not gonna do anything, fuck off. You know, like, walk away.
yeah.
You know,
Mm,
yeah, I take the responsibility on dudes too.
mm,
That's where I go, which is interesting hearing your perspective. Like, I think you know, I think this comes honestly comes from coaching, right? Coaching classes and all that type of
definitely.
shit, and just having to like portray myself in a way and like come across in a certain way, right? And
Mm,
you know, you coach a lot of different people, but when you've got a really small, petite lady comes in, right? I never even met him before. I got a deep voice. I sound weird because I'm usually away from home, so not everybody sounds like me. In fact, nobody sounds like me, right? And I'm as wide as a fucking door frame, right? I'm like, you gotta know that instantly you're intimidating, right? You've not said anything, right? I'm
Mm.
like, because she knows if shit really went down, animalistic, she's getting her head kicked in. It's
Yeah.
over, So you need to be
Yeah.
able to know that, and then spin how you then communicate, so then they don't feel as intimidated. And I think that's what you
Mm.
got to do, man. You got to be so self-aware of like, oh, I'm 6'5", 120 kilos. Oh, okay, I might intimidate this woman. I'm just gonna ask for the third time just to make sure, right? Because the first two times she might
Yeah.
have just bullshitted me, right? I was like, you've got to do
Mm.
that, man. Like, you'd rather be safe than sorry, as everybody's parents always told them.
Mm. I think it also, yeah, like it does. That's a good point though, and I think also just being educated and having those things and being able to really stand up, it shows like who like someone is as their personality. And I think even just doing those right things helps like people in their own personal lives. So for example, like your coaching, so if you're in your own personal life, you're being able to step up to people and you're knowing what's right and wrong, and even just taking time to educate yourself on just like something small, it's going to really reflect on you, and it's going to make you to the public more trusting. So then I guess women are going to be like, you know what, I won't mind if I go and get coached by
Mm-hmm.
you. I feel that comes because like I feel like that actually, now I haven't really thought about that, but that could be a thing like that. If you are in a position of say coaching or something like that, a lot of women will definitely probably, yeah, think that maybe feel unsafe or feel like that they might be touched up or whatnot. But I think it comes down to um, for that person to get the best that they can in what they're doing in their career, it needs to come, there needs to be that trust. And that trust really comes down to, I guess, that making sure that that person has that understanding that what stuff's like okay and what stuff's not okay. And
Yeah, and you said a
that's a
really good
good,
point, like of you need to surround yourself with like good people, right? To be able to call you out on your
yeah.
bullshit. Like, because we all try different things and we try some
Mm,
jokes sometimes. Everybody likes playing the joker because you bring a little bit of joy into people's lives, right? And everyone's like
yeah.
fucking down in the dumps. So you might try like a joke which has got a little bit of a tang to it. And the next thing you know, like it doesn't land, right? We've all done that.
Mm,
We've all said something. We've told the line. We thought we were towing the line, but we're actually so far past the line. I do this on a frigging daily basis, right? And I'm like, I'm still trying to like figure out where this line is because it changes from the people that you're talking to, right? But having good people around you that will just kind of talk you on the shoulder and just be like, "Nah, you missed." I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I missed. Okay, I'll read the room, no problem. We tone it down. Okay, Sam, we go again. I fucked up, apologize. Let's move forward. I think surround yourself with people like that is so, so fucking important. And not being a bystander, right? Because we've all seen it, a bunch of frigging knobheads, right? And they just egg each other on. And the
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're all like graffiti and pissing over a war memorial. You're like, how did we get here? We were playing checkers, right?
Yeah.
Like it just escalates. So having those people around you that's going to slap you back in line is really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely comes down to who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just even having that education within yourself though, and I think it does come down to, because in schools you are educated on this stuff properly, um, and because you're not educated from a young age, you know us people, like people who are like, well, now that haven't been educated, are really having to sort of self teach what's like what boundaries are and what's like right and wrong.
Mm.
So I guess it does help having like the right and the good like people that support you and that in your friendship circle, because if you're having to self-teach what's like right and wrong, you can in a way like reflect on each other and like really, yeah, grow from each other. But yeah, it would be I feel like it'd be a lot different culture if yeah, this sort of stuff was taught in school.
Mm. How's the sex ed over in Australia?
um so you pretty much, like when I was in school, you'd have like one sex ed talk when you're in year 5 or year 6, and it was pretty basic, just going through, I guess, what sex is, not too much on consent, but that was pretty much it. And then you never hear about it again. You never get spoken to about it again. And then in PE, through like 7 to 10, you do a little bit on like sexual health, maybe a little bit. It's mainly focused on alcohol and drugs, which is really good, but there isn't really any touch on consent and like coercion and just like, that sort of stuff. So yeah, the school system definitely I feel has a big part to play in how culture is with sexual assault. But as of 2023, consent education from kindergarten to year 10 will be mandatory. So every year we'll have to do, it was something that came in this year, but it's starting next year. And so every year at school, kids will have to be taught about, consent and I guess, how that comes to with relationships, which I think will be which is like amazing. It's something that should have always been the case. So it's definitely something that needed, and it's definitely good to see that it's happening. But yeah,
I think
hopefully we'll touch all the right things.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's good opening up that communication channel, right? And hearing what the kids have got to say too, right? Because, we're all just figuring this thing out. Like, I don't think we ever figure it out when we think we have. They usually throw dirt on us, right? And it's just kind of like, okay, how do we meander on down through this path and navigate through this minefield so, you don't fuck yourself over and fuck someone else over, and we can all like benefit from this like correctly, right? I remember like, I think we maybe had 2 sex ed things, but this was like at 16, right? I was like, everyone was already fucking. I was like, what are you doing? Like, we're putting a condom on a banana. I was like, we're all putting condoms in our own knobs. Like, what are we doing? Like, this is ridiculous. It's a free period type stuff. But I remember there was one advert on TV when I was like, I was a pretty young kid, right? And it was basically, it was like obviously an acted scene, and the lad was getting too forceful. It was like it was going good in the sense of it was consensual, or that's what it came across. And then she said no, and it was a whole campaign of like no means no, and it was like plastered on pretty much every wall everywhere for the best part of 10 years. And that scene, mate, was harrowing. Like, and this is an acted, like, obviously child friendly because it's on national television, and that shit was harrowing, man. Like, I'm speaking for myself and pretty much a lot of lads of like, holy fuck, like, women scare me now because I don't want to ever get to that stage. You know what I mean? You just like, you're asking them 15,000 times, hey, you okay? You're like, yes, stop fucking asking me. Like, you've been asking me the same question for 7 hours, and I don't think like scaring people into a place where they absolutely crap themselves is the way to go about it. But I do think sometimes you got to hit home of like, listen, some things we don't do, and this is the conversation you have to do. You still there? Got minor technical difficulties. All right, we're back. We're back.
What happened? Yeah, we're back.
What did your Wi-Fi drop or something?
No, it was you.
No, definitely not me. Don't go blaming me on this.
It was not me.
That's harsh shit. I don't know. I don't know. Technology's not my thing, man.
Whatever.
I'm a physical guy. Like, if I can't like kind of touch it and throw it around the place, I don't really figure it out. Like, but hey, we're here. We're doing it. It's fine. Like we said before, it's fine. One day I'll believe it.
Fine.
But don't say that in terms of the bedroom? If it's not fine, don't take that advice,
No, it's not.
obviously.
It's not fine.
So how do you get started on this journey, man? You know, because it's a real big thing to tackle. Obviously, it's needed to be tackled, right?
Mm.
But it's real big, and someone on the outside would look at it and be like, "Holy shit, that's intimidating." So, how did you get started on this journey, man?
Like the journey of consent, or like how I started what I did?
How you started what you did?
Yeah, okay. So well, I've always been like, so at uni, I'd go to uni and I studied law. So I always had a passion for like, I guess legal sort of stuff. But the start of last year, I was a victim of sexual assault twice by two different perpetrators in 2 months. And that was pretty, like, obviously it was hard, but it basically, I went to family after and I had said to them, like, this is what happened. And I was actually asked a few times, like, what was I wearing? Um, and then that's when, like, just this, like, I don't know, I just got, like, really angry. And
Mm.
that's where the whole idea of what we wearing came from. And so I was actually doing a uni assignment on the What We Wearing exhibition, which started over in America. And I got in contact with them and I said, like, hey, like, this exhibition's really great, but why is it not in Australia? And I said, is there any way that we can get it over here? And they said, like, anyone can bring it to Australia, but someone needs to start it. So I worked with the team over in America for a few months, and then they were like, yep, here's a few resources. Basically, do what you can to try and, I guess, adapt it to your culture. And so that's what I did for about a month, because, yeah, I guess Australian, as you would be very well aware, Australian, like, American cultures, just the culture in general, it's so different everywhere. Um, so I spent about a month just recreating it. And then I actually put a sort of like a survey sort of thing on my Instagram, my private Instagram, before I made the Instagram for What We're Wearing. And the survey was basically just asking people if they wanted to, they didn't have to, but if they wanted to share their story anonymously, they could. And if they wanted to, it could be put in the exhibition, obviously with their permission. And so I put that up, not thinking anything would be about, like, come from it. But within 2 weeks, I received over 2,000 stories, which, yeah, is insane. And because I don't have, like, the most massive following, I was like, holy shit. Um, and from that point on, I knew that, like, with the exhibition, even though I was bringing the exhibition to where I am in Australia, it needed to be more than just once a year exhibition. So I decided that I would make the idea an organization. So now, instead of just being an exhibition, we're an organization. So we, like, have multiple events, workshops, and different things, as well as that yearly exhibition. And so then, from when I did do that survey to when the exhibition aired in November last year, we received 9,758
Yeah, no.
stories. And so that was like, that's awful, because you never want to, like, have that, like, those, you hate to know that those are going on. But I guess it really showed that, well, to me myself, that I have a chance to really be able to do something with What We're Wearing, like, do something with the organization and actually, like, make a change and give victims and survivors, like, a voice. So we created another survey in October last year, which was asking people if they had been assaulted, if they ever been asked a victim blaming question. So, like, questions like, what were you wearing? How much did you have to drink? Were you drunk when it happened? Just, like, really, like, fucked questions. And we actually got 12,000 responses of, like, yes, they had been assaulted. And from that, 87.4% of those 12,000 had been asked a victim blaming sort of question in the past. So that then also just made it even more clear that, yeah, something, like, stuff's not okay. And obviously stuff's not being, like not enough's been done. And so yeah, we aired the exhibition and we had like thousands and thousands of people come and view the exhibition, which was basically, if you're not aware of what it is, it's just clothing on the wall. We're next to a story, and it's basically to get rid of that myth that clothing causes assault, because it doesn't. So you'll see we had like a wedding dress and like children's pajamas and gym outfits and a tradies uniform. So we had things from all genders, all cultures, all ages, pretty much to show that assault can unfortunately happen at any time, any day, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your job is. And yeah, it was really, really powerful, to the point where we got a lot of attraction from people in other states. So we're currently going to be at the end of this year going and bringing the exhibition around the entire of Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, so from that, I was pretty much just made the decision that it couldn't just be a yearly exhibition. Like people were really interacting with our social media. Like we were always getting heaps of messages on Instagram with people just getting things off their shoulder, like basically just saying, look, this is what happened to me last night, or this is what happened to me 10 years ago. We all get questions just asking, like, can I still report? Like, this happened 20 years ago, can I still report? And which is, it's like, we have so many questions like that, which is obviously you can report no matter like how long after. And that's the really great thing here in Australia is, so something could happen to you 50 years ago, but you can still go report it when you're 50 years old. So there's no time limits on that. And yeah, so we just got so like an influx of just messages and whatnot. And then, yeah, then in March this year, we actually, in Australia, I think we're at that 18 deaths to, this comes down to domestic violence, but I guess what a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot of sexual violence in domestic violence relationships. And I think we're at currently 18 women in Australia have been killed by a male partner since the start of 2022. And in March, there was 1 week where we had lost 5 women in 7 days, and one of them was a lady who lived in the same area that I lived in and where the organisation is predominantly like goes on. And so we decided to organise within 48 hours a protest, and that was insane. And the attraction we got from that, so we had a couple thousands of people turn up on some random Tuesday like afternoon after work, and pretty much just protest with us. It was just like a march, and yeah, at the end it was so powerful. Like I'd actually never been to a protest or a march before, so I was pretty worried like organizing one and not having been to one, but it was like so powerful, and all these people, like obviously it was so, we were there not for things that we obviously wanted to be there for, but it was so good to be able to like let people have a voice and actually just hear people's stories and hear that like what we're fighting for and what we like are doing is something that like is literally affecting so many people, and it's something that is so needed. But there's just not enough being done by, I guess, the government and people who are in positions of power, like who have access to funding, who have access to actually change the laws and change policies. Because, you know, we can do as much as we can now in ourselves, but if the laws are still going to stay the same, or if all the funding is going to go to other things rather than organisations for sexual violence, just domestic violence, then it really just, you sort of just stuck. So yeah, we did that, and that was really insane for the organisation, because I think we ended up on like 10 different like newspapers in Australia. We were on like, yeah, it was so insane. We were on like the TV in Australia, and like it was so wild to see that like thousands of people just within 48 hours could like find out about the protest, but also be like so keen to come. Um, so yeah, that's I guess part of the journey to where we are now.
That's fucking hats off to you, man, because you're the one who turned around and was like, hey, why aren't you in Australia? You know, and the next thing you know, you do months of work, so on and so forth, all the behind the scenes stuff behind closed doors, right? Make
Yeah,
make it a thing. And then we're like, oh, actually, you know, there's two dots here and I'm going to draw a line and connect them and be like, this kind of needs to be more than an event, right? And then
yeah,
obviously tragedy happens and you're like, nah, fuck this. We're going to do something about it. Everyone can
yeah,
sit down and lick their wounds and think about it. And it's been 2 weeks, right? It's gone out of the newspaper. You know, people like flash news, right? Everyone likes a click. You know, we got an attention
yeah.
span of something like 1.7 seconds or something daft these days or whatever. But not to
Mm.
be on 48 hours and be like, fuck this. Nah, this ain't gonna happen again. Like we're gonna do something about this and this needs to stop, right? That
Mm.
that's hats off, man. That's you. Like, so I hope you're proud of what
I
you
appre-
do. And I hope you don't stop too.
No, I won't. No, I won't. It's good because, like, yeah, we've got another march, which is going to happen next Tuesday, but that's more, um, it's at the university where we're located because reports came out, like surveys were done last year, reports came out that I think it was 1 in 6 women that are uni students are sexually assaulted at uni, and no, it was 1 in 2 women and 1 in 6 men. So even the rates for like I know that like there's that whole stigma around men don't get sexually assaulted, men don't get raped, and whatnot, but yeah, it even was able to prove that, yeah, men also are victims of this as well. So, and it really showed the survey results that there's so much that universities are not doing, um, and could be doing. So yeah, we're gonna be having a like march, I guess, next Tuesday with that. So hopefully, it'll be really good to be able to, I guess, start somewhere within. So like start in the universities and really like say, hey, like let's actually have consent education brought into universities. Let's have the right policies and let's actually teach university students where to go and where to report if like something does happen. Because like I speak to so many university students now that like if they were to get unfortunately assaulted, they wouldn't know where to go or what to do.
These are supposed to be intellectuals, right? Like getting degrees
Mm,
in all types of stuff. There'll be doctors, students, there'll be freaking law, everything. Right.
yeah,
That's crazy. And I mean, hitting the head of the snake, you know, going into the institutes is phenomenal, right? That's undoubtable. But I hope people listening to it, people listening to this can understand that like the power's with them, man. You know, powers with the people and the people are individuals, like, and the individual is fucking you. Like, first of all, don't be a cunt.
mm,
Second of all,
mhm,
you know, you got to be able to call yourself out. You know, be like, oh, okay, I might have fucked up. Okay, like we
yeah,
bastardize failure all the time in everywhere of society, in education, like everything. It's like you can't kind of trip up. And I was like, no, if you trip up and make a wrong decision or whatever, okay, sometimes you have to get slapped in the face for it. But it'd be like, hey, I hold my hands up. Okay, I fucked up. All right, can I learn from this? Let's have a conversation. If you don't want it, that's fine. We're gonna walk away, right? And
yeah,
I'm really happy that you mentioned the other side too, because I remember having a really pretty heated discussion with it was more of an acquaintance than a friend um,
yeah,
about nightclubs, right? You're out dancing
yeah,
in a nightclub or whatever, and she just couldn't get it in her head why dudes wouldn't allow her to just touch their chest, right? I was like, oh, I'm a chest lady, like, blah blah blah. I was like, okay, great, right? But like, if they say no, you can't do it, man. I was like, no, no,
yeah,
no, like, no, no. I'm like, No, dude. Picture it the other way around. A dude comes up to you and just grabs hold of your tit. I was like, he's getting hung at fucking dawn. And so he should
Yeah.
do, metaphorically speaking, of course. Right? It was like it takes two to tango, man. Like there is two sides to this coin, you know. You can't just have one way and not the other. And I just think open up the conversation. Like, fuck it, everybody talk about it. I was like, hey, what do you think about this one? That's a gray area. So let's get a third party involved. What do you think about this situation? What do you think about this situation? Right? Just opening up that conversation and be like, oh, okay, I understand now. You know?
Yeah. I think like literally with anything in life, I think if people are educated and even just like, I think it's education. I think people just need to be aware and taught what's like sort of stuff. Like even just like things like stealthing, like how that's a thing. Like so many people wouldn't know what stealthing is, which is if you remove the condom without consent.
Oh, that's the
You know,
creepiest thing. That's
I know,
fucking
right?
weird, man.
But people don't know that that's like literally illegal, and you can literally get like you could be put in prison for something like that. And people don't know that because they're not educated. So I think people really need to be educated on, I guess, everything. But even just things like with the nightclub situation, I always speak to people about who work in nightclubs, and they will just say that, you know, people who are drunk, like girls and whatnot, or vice versa, will just come up to the bartenders and just like grab them by the groin and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's literally sexual assault. And we'll
yeah.
talk to people and be like, oh, they were just doing the wrong thing. Oh, they were just drunk. Like they just didn't know. But it's like, yeah, but that's not okay, and we shouldn't be
Mm.
minimizing what it is because that's sexual assault. They shouldn't be grabbing you by the groin. Um, yeah, I think there's so much that needs to be done, and I think, yeah, it needs to start within our culture and like friend groups and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm a little bit of a cynic when it comes to like government and stuff like that. I just think if anything happens, it takes about 52 years. All right. And we're like, well, good job. Like we're past that now.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
people just need to take responsibility for themselves, you know, and then take
Yeah,
responsibility for your friend group around you, the family members, as you would call them, right? Like I don't have friends, I got family, and then you've got acquaintances and people you kind of know and colleagues or whatever. But like those people
yeah,
that are ride or die, like fucking Vin Diesel says, like if they're chatting some shit and bad shit, you've got to be able to call them out, and they've got to be able to do the same for you, man. Like I said, we all
definitely.
fuck up. But if you look them in the eye and be like, if you do that again, you're out.
Mm,
It's like they're not gonna do it again. Like it's family, you know.
mm,
I 100%
yeah,
agree. 100% agree, mate. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing. I want to get this over in New Zealand. Like I'm fired up. I'm ready to go headbutt a
definitely.
wall or something. I'm blonde. I'll probably do something dumb like that. Like trip over my own feet, or the amount of times I bang my head is quite comical. But we don't talk about it, especially because it's recorded. But I appreciate what you do. Appreciate you, mate. And if I can help out in any way, in anything, you know where to find me.
Mm, I appreciate it. I really do. No, I appreciate you just wanting to have a conversation and talk on it. I think when you sent me the message, I was like, people want to speak on it, and especially like being a man yourself, wanting to speak on it is just yeah, it's definitely really good. I appreciate it. So thank you to you.
Oh no, thank you for that, man. Like, the only thing I know is I know nothing, and that's how I live my life. And I
Mm,
think I think perception is reality, right? And the way I perceive something is going to be unique to me, right? In my eyes,
yeah.
I'm not going to see it your way for a lot of
Mm,
reasons, right? And I also think that's beautiful. The difference in that I think is one of the stunning things about life, right? But how am I supposed to
mm.
fucking know what it's like in your eyes,
Yeah.
in your reality? I'm not. So I need to be able to, okay, like, hey, do you want to have a conversation? Yeah, sure. Like, let's share a
Mm,
coffee. Let's have a hug and a high five, and like, if you go on separate ways, you're like, oh wow, I thought about that, and now I can think about it differently. We get to see this one thing that we all experience of life in like so many different ways. And I think
Yeah.
that's insane. It's like a superpower, and we don't use it,
Mhm.
right? We don't communicate effectively. And I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot and say I was that guy. I was the guy who
Mm,
wasn't communicating effectively, and not in terms of sexual assault, but in terms
mm.
of like just life. It's like, oh no, I think
Yeah.
this way. This is just what it is. It's like, no, man, like that's
Mm.
not life. Like we are all in this together, but we're all alone in this together, right? We all walk our own paths, and yeah, I'm forever going to be grateful to hear what people got to say, man.
No, definitely.
If I ever, well, when I make it to Australia, because it's like a stone's throw away, right? Although it's still fucking like 4, 5, 6 hours on a plane, which is insane.
Mm.
I can get to like
That is not
Turkey in 6 hours, huh?
that's not that bad.
Okay, for like 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that, whatever. It's still crazy, but yeah, I'll let you know, and we'll grab a coffee sometime, or I'll join in on a match if I'm over on the
Yeah.
same time. You know,
Yeah, hell yeah.
I wear like a pink tutu or a mankini or something. Like I'm sure like maybe 3 people on the planet want to see that.
No,
Two of
I'm
them will be
sure.
my brothers. One of them will be some stalker from Turkmenistan or something. I don't know. I got 3 questions though.
Mhm.
Number one, what's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Mm. Oh, that's a hard one. Probably that you, like, I guess if you're someone who has grown up in not the best of households, or like hasn't had the best upbringing, or like you've gone through a lot as a child, that like doesn't have to be a barrier from you doing good things in life and you making a life for yourself. Um, so I think, yeah, that's been probably the best life advice for me, would be that you can still do things, and you can still make a life for yourself, and really change other people's opinions and do stuff. You don't have to let what's happened in the past, I guess, stop that. You should just use that as your power to like motivate you and make you more want to do it more.
What's the worst piece of life advice you ever received?
Worst. Hmm. Oh, that I'm too young to have an organization. I don't
Oof.
think like I yeah, I know. um, I think like if someone's doing something really powerful and then trying to make change and is making change, doesn't matter like what gender, how old, or what culture you come from. I think we should just all stand together and go with it. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, agreed. 3 words you'd tell your younger self.
Oh, 3 words.
Yeah.
Um, like 3 words that I would describe as my younger self, or would like say if I could.
If you could sit across the table with your younger self and tell them 3 words, whether it's a sentence with 3 words in it or it's 3 specific words to plant a
Mm.
seed, this is your thing. Whatever your answer is.
God, you're making me really use my brain.
I mean, you're the law like graduate. Like, come on, you're supposed to be a lot smarter than I am.
Probably patient. I'd probably need to do 3 words. I'd probably do patience, um, drive, and empower.
Mm,
Because I
nice.
feel like, yeah, I feel like especially with what I'm doing, like you do really need to be patient, because as much as you really want to make that change and you want to be able to, I guess, ultimate goal would be in a perfect world to end sexual violence. You really need to be able to understand and accept that, unfortunately, as much as I do, or much as our organization does do, sexual assault's still going to occur. so you need to be patient for the change and patient for laws to come about and whatnot. And I think, yeah, and I would have said to my younger self, yeah, patience also, because yeah, just be patient with everything. Like you'll be able to, you don't have to like stress yourself out heaps. Like things will work itself out. And then yeah, I think having that drive and really having a drive, no matter who you are, is like a really good thing in life, because it's like you've got this goal, and then yeah, empower, because yeah, I feel like as a child I had a pretty rough upbringing, so I feel like I could use that to really empower others and yeah, help others, which is ultimately what I feel like I am doing and will continue to do.
Stunning. Thank you so much.
No,
right.
thank you.
If people wanted to follow along and send you a high five or something, where will you send them?
They can go to the What We Wearing Instagram or Facebook page. It's all orange, so it's not hard to miss, but yeah.
It's all orange. As you do. No, I appreciate it, man. And but we'll get something going. We'll link up. We'll do something. We'll whether we bring something in New Zealand or I fucking come over and try and help out with something, whatever. Like, you know, I'm a dude that always has to do something. Like, it's not like I get bored easy, but I get like fidgety. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
I kind of feel a bit useless when I don't do anything, and you know, I don't know. I just got to do things. So, you know, I am.
Good.
Holler at me, send a flying pigeon, and I'll jump on its back and get over.
Hell yeah! No, I appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Thanks for
All
the
right.
chat.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. All
All right,
right.
man.
Bye.
Take it easy.
It's
Bye,
nice to meet
everybody.
you.